As all Americans may know, a country is a country revolved around digital advances, social media, and technological pleasures. One of these pleasures will be the digital video game, an item heavily bought and anticipated by many, especially adolescents. Video games can enlighten us, bringing joy as well. Sadly, video games are also said to bring chaos upon us, in reality by many. Could this truly be? While this is generally stated by many, there are various sources of information claiming video games not cause violence and harm. Firstly, it is evident that many video game enthusiasts understand the concept and graphic video games and would not apply those concepts to reality. A quote from a high school student claimed, "I played Grand Theft Auto for a long time and I've never considered killing a civilian." It is shown that many video gamers are mindful of the consequences exerted in real life if an action in a video game would be shown in reality. Obviously, multiple people would not apply those to real life as well. Secondly, video games aren't created for everyone. Video games are regulated with age. Let's just assume there's a 7-year-old kid who believes everything he sees is acceptable, but you buy a mature-rated game and let them play it so he can recreate those video game actions later. Many video game workers create safety rules so people can be protected for the kids' safety and viewings. If a parent believes their kid isn't mature enough for a game, they're obliged to follow rating rules of video games or not get the game whatsoever. This correlates to the fact video games don't cause violence, but the regulation of video games and gaming does. Finally, it isn't the video games that cause violence, it's the person playing the video game does. This reason applies to my first reason. Many people in this world are already aggressive and mental, even without the influence of a violent game. If a person with a mental aggressive issues seizes a violent game, they will be driven even more to create a violent act because of their mindset, not the video game itself. Video games are made to be mindful, and if mindful, video games are shown to be stress relievers. If those consumers aren't mindful of the content within the game, it's ultimately the consumer's fault for the act of violence and his mindset, not the video game itself whatsoever. To conclude, from evidence stated, video games are used as a form of stress relieving, and the video game is shown as an item as relaxation as well as entertainment. Video games come with signs of its content, allowing adult figures and consumers to know about their content and stop children from observing it, as well as other adolescents and young adults. Saying that, if a video game is exposed to a person who will use it as a source of violence, we cannot say it was the game's fault, but as a whole, it was the consumers. Thank you.
Very good, Jade, and right on 3 minutes. Emily, you're up. Go ahead.
42% of Americans play video games on a regular basis, and 71% of those games contain at least mild violence. So it should come as no surprise to hear about all the violence in the real world these virtual realities lead to. Not only do they open a world of guns and blood to their players, but they also affect their personalities, making the players more aggressive, less empathetic, and prone to showing less self-control. Violent video games also inspire people to perform similar devastating crimes as those that can be found in the game. 2 stepbrothers cited Grand Theft Auto 3 as their motivator when they shot and killed one person and injured another. If the game itself doesn't encourage violence, then the other players do. Chris Harper Mercer had many supporters when he mentioned his plan to conduct a shooting at a school. Some even decided to provide a couple of tips. Later that day, he killed 10 people, including himself, and injured 7 others, which actually gained him positive publicity by his supporters. Maybe you're thinking that the violence itself isn't the cause for so many tragic deeds, but the addiction to these games can be dangerous too. 17-month-old Alea Turman accidentally pulled the cords of her dad's Xbox out of the wall. Instead of just fixing it or checking to make sure she was okay, he bashed her head in several times, killing her. There are other stories about video games-obsessed parents killing their children simply because they messed up their habit. Video games can be just as dangerous as drugs if you aren't careful. For example, a 13-year-old thought the best way to get money to support his gaming habits was to rob and kill an 81-year-old. These games also supply the skills needed to commit such demoralizing acts without suspicion. Who would think twice about a kid playing video games when they do it every day? Anders Bering Breivik shot 68 people dead at a youth camp after he used Call of Duty to train for it. One of the worst things about these games are how they warp your sense of fantasy and reality. Evan Ramsey smuggled a gun into school, then shot a student and the principal while wounding 2 others. He claimed that he didn't know that shooting them would kill them, and that in his game, you have to shoot them multiple times because the first time they just get back up. This isn't just a problem here, but all over the world. It's not uncommon to find evidence of people's anger and hostility that is unleashed in the virtual realm of video games, spilling out into the real world. A Shanghai gamer was murdered by a fellow player when a dispute over a cyber weapon spilled out into the reality, leaving one player stabbed in the chest and the other earning a death sentence. If you still think that violent video games don't cause violence in the real world, then you are simply in denial. There is proof everywhere, merely no one wishes to learn the shocking truth about this social normality.
You're right on the dot. You have 3 seconds remaining.
Okay, because my mom was saying you made it too short.
All right, Jaden, do you have any questions for Emily or rebuttal remarks? Speak into the mic, please.
When it comes to the video game, as you can see, she did state that multiple incidents occur resolving the video games. But as a whole, you also compare video games as to a drug. A drug, though, it has stimulants that encourage that person, as well as making that person more addictive to it. Well, a video game is basically digital, and to be honest, people can regulate their mindset on video games as well as playing them. So technically, would it be the player that is influenced by the video game instead of the video game influencing that player?
Actually, I found a report about where this company had different children, and they had them play the same video game on different settings, one with no blood, one with more blood, and one with the most blood. It showed that the people who played it with more blood in it actually acted more hostile and their heart rate was up the more they played it. So it's the video game also is the cause of it, not just the person.
Okay, school uniforms should be in every school. If students are wearing school uniforms, the school doesn't have to worry about them wearing gang symbols or inappropriate revealing clothes. If there would be school uniforms, students would not look at each other and be jealous or judgy on who has nicer clothes. This would be reduced the physical and distance between the variation and economy classes of the students in school. The parents would most likely be able to save money on the clothes because their children would not need so many different outfits for school. It might encourage students to feel more professional and studious. School uniforms create a level playing field among students in reducing the peer pressure and bullying. Wearing these school uniforms enhances the school pride and community and unity of the spirit. It may improve attendance and discipline. Having a school uniform would be easier to enforce than a standard dress code. Having all students wear the same uniform helps create a sense that you belong somewhere and maintain a good school, either by culture or spirit, and by showing that the expects and the higher standards. Uniforms actually cost less than other school clothes. Wearing school uniforms every day can benefit you whenever you're looking for clothes in the morning. You don't have to worry about not having something to wear. Uniforms has been founded to help students from not giving into peer pressure. I'm done.
Okay. And Maggie, go ahead.
Okay, I would like everyone to close their eyes for a few seconds. Now imagine a world where everybody's the same. No diversity, no creativity, no individuality. Now open your eyes. That is how it is in schools where uniforms are mandated. Uniforms promote conformity over self-expression at an age when self-expression is most detrimental to a child's development. Students are entitled to the freedom of expression, and restricting that is restricting their First Amendment rights. In fact, the American Civil Liberties Union has even stated that schools should think twice before instituting a uniform policy, and that uniforms are an inefficient and unnecessary bureaucracy that requires school officials to worry about what everybody's wearing. We live in a world where self-image has never been more important, and with today's students so self-conscious about the way they look, how is forcing them to wear dull, unflattering uniforms doing anything to help them? We choose clothes that suit our body types, and uniforms take away these options and require students to wear clothes they aren't comfortable in. Uniforms are meant to ease the pressures of fitting in when it comes to clothing, when in reality, according to child and teen development specialist Robin Silverman, they cause more of a comparison amongst peers than if there wasn't a policy at all. An argument often used in favor of school uniforms is that they reduce bullying. This is simply not true. According to a study conducted by experts from Texas Southern University in 1999, bullying incidents actually increased by 12% when uniforms were mandated. Another study, conducted in 2007 and published in the Southwest Journal of Criminal Justice, revealed that assaults in a local school increased by as many as 14 incidents yearly after the uniforms were introduced. Now I'd like you to look around at your fellow classmates. This is how school should be, filled with diversity, full of creativity, and full of individuality. I'd like to conclude my speech with a quote from Robert E. Blau. Clothing is an expression in and of itself. When everyone looks the same, they start acting the same, and you lose your sense of individuality.
All right, any questions? Brittany, any questions to Maggie? Maggie, any questions to Brittany?
Do you think that a strict uniform policy would amount to more detentions for those who didn't correctly follow the rules, and won't this take away valuable learning time from the students?
If they have school uniforms, they'll most likely be in class every day, just because if they would wear inappropriate clothes, they wouldn't have to leave the school or have to wear some other clothes that the school might provide.
In my opinion, banning abortion should be kept an option. There are many people who think abortion should be banned and that taking the life of a child away is wrong, but there are very valid reasons that abortion should be an option among women that become pregnant. One very important reason that everybody seems to overlook is, what if a woman is raped and becomes pregnant with her assaulter's child? It is already physically and mentally damaging that she has been violated for an ill person's pleasure, but to be forced to have that kid is completely and undeservedly cruel. These women that have already been destroyed in many ways and used, if they are forced to have this child, they're going to have to stare at the child's face that looks like their abuser for the rest of their life. And you could say, well, can't you put the child up for adoption? But would you really expect that child to live the rest of their life and eventually, because they have the right to know why they were given up, have to know that the reason that their parents don't want them is because their father was an abuser and their mother was held victim? Another reason is that sometimes for women, having a child is life-threatening. Some women's bodies cannot handle this, and if they find out they're pregnant and early on, that's saving them both and the guy that they're with from having to go through the decision, do you want to keep the one person that you love or the child that you could have? What if you've taken a precaution, whether it's birth control, the rod, whatever it is, and it fails? It isn't your fault. You've paid these doctors to provide prescriptions for you that are supposed to prevent them. If they end up not working and failing to work, you have the right to stop the pregnancy from going in motion. If you catch the pregnancy at early stages in it, and you have an abortion, it's not truly killing the child, because if the child isn't really a living being until it has a heartbeat in an actual body. If it's in an early stage of pregnancy, it's just a bunch of cells. So you're not technically killing a human being, you're stopping cell growth. The last reason is, what if you have an important job that you've worked for most of your life, you've spent years in high school working up to get this scholarship, you've paid things to go to this college, you've worked over 13 years or 17 years, you go to college, you get this job that you have worked for. What happens if you come up pregnant? Should you be forced to have it? Because that's not only taking the life that this person has worked so hard for away, you're going to end up throwing this child into a situation where their parent doesn't have the time to give them the love and the affection that they truly need. It's understandable not wanting it to be legal to take the life of a child away, but everybody seems to skip over these reasons that these women... It is understandable not wanting it to be legal to take the life of a child away, but isn't it also illegal to take that life of the woman away? These women should have the right to choose. If you find out early on, you can stop it before it becomes a living human being, an actual physical child. If it's these cells, it's not really a living being. You're not killing somebody. It's not about being pro-life. It's what's best for both that child and that mother, and that's what true pro-life is. I'm done.
Okay, Kaylina?
Okay, so ever since the legalization of abortion came around in 1973, over 57 million unborn babies have been killed. That is basically saying that more than the population of Spain has been killed off through abortion, and that's about 155 babies dead per hour, one every 24 seconds, and that's like saying, by the time I'm done giving this speech, 4 to 5 more innocent lives are gone. Many people say that unborn babies aren't living, but technically a living person begins to exist at the moment of conception. And the US government considers unborn babies actual human living beings. No one heals themselves by killing another, so you're killing off a living thing just to make your life better when you could actually have another better life in the world. Their mental illnesses are linked to people who have abortion. Studies show that abortion links to higher depression and anxiety rates for that woman who has an abortion. You could either lose 2 lives in this world or bring in a new one. People say that if you're raped, abortion should be okay, but 2 wrongs don't make a right. And the woman may feel pain through the pregnancy, but it's actually worth a life. The baby can feel pain during the abortion procedure too. So you're giving this innocent child who never had the chance to make a wrong in the world, giving them pain just because you can't handle them inside of your life. It's so easy to be pro-choice when you're not the one that's going to be killed. To me, abortion is something that can take 10 minutes to go through, but it can take a lifetime of regret. So that's it.
All right. Any questions for each other, Macy?
Me?
I mean, yeah, you have any questions?
The only question that really arises in me is, you say that anxiety and depression come up after these abortions, but I've actually known somebody who had become pregnant and she was under so much stress and she was depressed so much and so anxious that she ended up miscarrying, and after she had miscarried and wasn't in that situation anymore, she went without depression and anxiety that she hadn't in a long time.
I don't know if that was like a question.
Well, no, I wasn't. So, can that be technically true? Because there can be cases that does happen, but there can be cases that doesn't happen.
There are some cases where it's going to help them out, but most of them, I've looked it up, and it's like 55.7% women that have abortion tend to later on have depression knowing that they killed off an innocent life.
Do you have any questions for Macy?
Yeah, would you consider abortion to be okay if it wasn't by rape?
If it wasn't?
Yeah.
By
Rape.
rape?
Yeah.
You see, the thing, in my opinion, in abortion, the women should have the choice, because it's not just rape that they should have this choice for, and if these children don't have their body developed yet, if they're just cells that are going to eventually grow into that body, if you catch it before they actually turn into a living human being, again, you're not killing a child, you're stopping cells from growing into that child, and they won't feel anything because they don't have that body to feel anything.
Okay, Macy, you keep using the word cells around, and that's really bothering me, because right around conception, it's still a human being, and then there's been known people who abort the baby when it's like 4 months in, and they physically have to like harvest the body parts, and that's been known true. So I don't understand why you're saying that, oh, as long as it's cells, we can abort it. You shouldn't, it's cells like isn't the right word to use, it's still a human being, and you're saying, if you can go out and kill a person and you'll be put in jail for it, what gives you the right to kill another human being and say, oh, it's my choice?
Again, you're not killing a human being at that stage.
Yes, you are killing
these cells.
It's not cells. It's not cells.
The thing that causes women to get pregnant is what triggers these cells to start to come together and make the child.
I have actually looked it up, and there are studies that a living person is actually existing even if they're just cells.
So we need to redefine
Like, there is, I can get where you're coming from because
Do you have like limits that you can't
a plant
abort
is
after
living,
3 months?
but is it a human being?
It is a human being.
Plant's a human being.
Not a plant. Not a plant, but okay, sorry.
There are many different living things, like our cells are even living. It's just whether it's at that point where it's a living human being with these capabilities to actually be considered.
Okay, in 1954, President Eisenhower added the words "under God" to the Pledge of Allegiance. Before this edition, the pledge did not contain anything relating to religion. This phrase was added to represent our country as an anti-communist nation, as communism was starting to take over parts of the world. Congress thought that adding these words would differentiate our country from the Soviets, who were considered godless. This phrase should be taken out, since not everybody in the United States believes in God or a God. Our country shouldn't be represented by a pledge that demonstrates a national religion when the First Amendment of our Constitution prohibits just that. Our country was not formed on religion like everybody believes. Our country broke free from a national religion when we got our independence from Britain. This pledge goes against our own Constitution, which is why I believe this phrase should be taken out.
Okay. Today in America, 80% of U.S. citizens think that under God should remain the Pledge of Allegiance. The United States was founded by men of great faith believing in the religion of Judeo-Christian. So frankly, the phrase "under God" wasn't meant to be religious. It was meant to inform everyone that the United States was founded by the men who were strong in faith and founded the country under God. In addition, if it was meant to be said religiously, it isn't defining which God. It isn't saying under Allah. It's not defining whose God. It's just stating under any God. From the day you begin kindergarten to when you graduate, you hear the words "under God" approximately 2,320 times. Studies estimate that you hear about 30,000 words in just one day. 2,320 words is nothing compared to how many words you can possibly hear in a day. Also, I completely understand that church and state are supposed to be separated, but this is a pledge to our country. It's not a pledge to God. The Pledge of Allegiance is said every morning before school begins to say a pledge to our amazing country that allows us, for the most part, to be free. Also, when we say the pledge, we face the flag, not a picture of God or a cross. The First Amendment promises freedom of religion, and you are not at all forced to say under God. That would go against the First Amendment saying you have freedom of speech. Since you are not forced to say under God, it's not going against any amendments or laws. It's not anything wrong. It's simply a conflict.
What is the point of having "under God" in the pledge?
The point is that the founders of America were very religious, and they believed in the religion of Judeo-Christian, and that they wanted everyone to know that when they founded this country, the point for them was founded in God, in Christ.
Kate, question?
Okay. What does May 5th mean to you? Because in 1988, President Reagan signed a bill declaring National Day of Prayer. I bet you or really no one knew that this day even existed. This day has been around for 28 years, and it has bothered no one, not even you. So if 2 short words bothers you and many others, why can everyone go a whole day dedicated to prayer just fine?
Because the pledge represents our country.
Go ahead, disregard that. You can answer again.
The pledge represents our country, it doesn't.
Any other questions?
So the founders of our country, their goal was to get away from religious oppression. And in forcing people to say this, which we're not actually forcing them to, but we're encouraging them every day to say this, and it's being forced into their brains by hearing other people say it. It's oppressing people who don't believe in that. So, I'm sorry. I don't know how to phrase this as a question, but like, what do you think about that? So, it's religious oppression. And our country was formed in opposition to religious oppression. So, is that being hypocritical?
To the fact that, like, people say it?
That we separated for religious belief and now
No.
If under God, if you're saying to eliminate
Who's this for?
Victoria. If you're saying to eliminate under God in the pledge because it offends people who don't believe in God, don't you believe that if you take it in a wave out, it's going to offend people? It's going to offend a lot of other people too. So you're kind of contradicting yourself.
80% I think if it's not there, it won't offend anybody. In the morning, you're given a moment of silence for people who pray. That's in the announcements when it says moment of silence. That's for you to pray and for you to do your own religious stuff.
Marijuana has been used for over 10,000 years, and not one death has ever been recorded because of it. So that means that it's not really that harmless to you, and other stuff that you do causes death. There will be less crime too. That means less smuggling across the border. That will decrease crime rates everywhere. Instead of smoking it, we can make it into a spice or a pill, which makes it less dangerous for your lungs. And it's less harmful than any other drug. Like drinking, it's worse for you because you can actually get intoxicated and kill yourself while driving. 70% of people want to legalize it, while only 23% say no to it. And the seeds of marijuana, they're called hemp. We can use that for paper. And 1 acre of hemp is equal to 1 acre of wood, like tree paper. So we're actually saving trees if we use the hemp for paper. Then it helps the American economy because it will bring more jobs, like more farmers, and then we can use the money. We can use the money to like help fix up stuff if it's taxed. Marijuana cures and prevents Alzheimer's and glaucoma. Alzheimer's is memory loss, and glaucoma is an eye condition that can cause blindness. It's legal in some states already, so why shouldn't it be legal for the whole country? And it also helps people with migraines and headaches all across the country. There's also 2 chemicals in marijuana. There's THC and CBD. THC is the thing that makes you go, the chemical responses for physiological effects. And the CBD, it cures cancer in kids. And so if you have this, and they're genetically modifying it, so they're taking out the THC and adding more CBD to cure cancer.
Okay, so lately there have been debates on whether marijuana should be legalized for medicinal purposes or not. In my opinion, marijuana should not be legalized for medicinal purposes. Marijuana is terrible for your mental and physical health. It is worse than smoking cigarettes for you. It can take off your IQ points and your overall intelligence. A recent Northwestern University study found that marijuana users have an abnormal brain structure and poor memory, and that chronic marijuana abuse may lead to brain changes resembling schizophrenia. Marijuana is also worse for you than cigarette smoke. Regular users are hit with devastating lung problems as much as 20 years earlier than smokers. Amsterdam tried to legalize marijuana for medicinal use last year. They ended up having to make Stricter laws for people would abuse their right to have it for medicinal uses. People tended to need it just to get their hands on it just because they were so addicted to it. Marijuana legalization will encourage America's new version of big tobacco. Already private holding groups and financiers have raised millions of startup dollars to promote businesses that will sell marijuana and marijuana-related merchandise. Marijuana is already being used by many people throughout the U.S., which is illegal. Why should we legalize something that's highly addictive and dangerous to our bodies? We shouldn't, because that just makes everybody that has done it before think that it's perfectly fine to be addicted and to put our bodies in danger.
Do you have any questions, Daniel, for Sam?
No. I do.
No.
I have. If your child, when you're older, if he has seizures all the time and you knew that marijuana could save them, would you use it even though it's illegal?
Well, yeah, because I wouldn't use it because it's illegal.
So you want to make it legal so you can use it for your son?
Well, in that case, yeah, but in most cases, no.
It was just for medicinal use.
Yeah.
Which
So,
is what our topic is on.
Dude, like, people would probably abuse it if it was legalized. Like,
Yeah,
Colorado has
Americans, they abuse everything that's given to them. Like alcohol, you're only supposed to have certain amounts of alcohol, but people go way overboard.
Yeah, but people legalize or abuse marijuana, and that's not even legal.
I know. But
Alcohol is legal, but it's just set limits on it.
yeah, there's limit. We can put limits on the marijuana if we make it legal.
Yeah, but people will still go over just like they do with alcohol.
Right. So why is alcohol legal and if marijuana isn't?
Because also, wouldn't people that wouldn't be on marijuana, wouldn't they get sick of people having to deal with people that are?
No, because they're taking out the THC, which gives you like the stuff in your head that makes you go crazy. So you won't have any side effects of it.
How could they take out THC?
They're genetically modifying it.
Okay.
Sam, do you have any questions for him?
No.
Audience?
Sam, now, you said that you don't want medical marijuana to be legal, right?
Right.
But if I'm correct, Daniel said that there's no reported deaths because of medical marijuana. Daniel, am I right?
Correct.
Now, alcohol is legal, and there's been thousands and thousands of deaths because of alcohol. Why hasn't there been any for something that's not legal?
Who says though that people wouldn't abuse marijuana? People would.
Oh, they're going to.
Exactly.
People
So
abuse everything. People abuse other people.
Exactly.
It's going to happen. But why isn't marijuana something that helps you, not legal?
Because it doesn't help everything.
It's not supposed to help everything.
So then why would we legalize it for medicinal purposes if it wouldn't help everything?
Don't help everything.
Exactly.
So why are the painkillers legal when they don't help everything? But that's your argument for why marijuana shouldn't be legal.
Because people would abuse
abuse
marijuana a lot more.
What's your basis for saying that?
You know how many people already use it even though it's not legal.
Yes, and lots of people. Okay, I don't see your point there.
People already abuse it and it's not legal. Yeah, people abuse alcohol and stuff, but that's legal. It's legal. Yeah, there's this limit, but it's still legal to drink alcohol, but it's not legal to smoke marijuana.
That's my
stuff.
point.